Hello. Hey. So we live in a world where biodiversity is rapidly declining. Rainforests are chopped down, polar ice caps melt. Up to 100 different plants and animals get driven to extinction to disappear from the face of this planet permanently. The oceans are full of plastic. So quite a depressive thought, right? So yeah. So today it should be a happy day, so I'll tell you more of a bright story. I'm going to tell you about a world that's home to an unimaginable number of different ecosystems. It's a world that, in terms of biodiversity, greatly outnumbers the different plants and animals that can be found in the Amazon rainforest, for example. It's a world that's home to an estimated 10 million to even 1 billion different species. It's a great place. I'm going to take you on a little field trip to that world. But before I will do that, I would like to rewind a little bit and tell you something about myself. When I was young, I was a bit of an old-fashioned naturalist. I had the urge to study the living world around me. And when you would have asked me when I was about 5 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would have probably said something like a geologist or a paleontologist or probably a biologist. And the way I imagined myself when I would grow up was something like a mix between Indiana Jones and David Attenborough. That was the idea I had. And so I did grow up. I went to study biology, which was a lot of fun, and actually it was a great time to study biology because we were entering the genomic era. We were learning about the genetic code, understanding biology to a level we never did before. Exciting times, but every now and then I was struck by this melancholic feeling that I was born in the wrong age. Wouldn't I rather be a biologist 100 years ago? Right? So, because I realized there were hardly any white spots left on the map. Only rarely new plants and animals were discovered, except for some boring insects every now and then. So I had a feeling I was born in the wrong age. And it took me quite a while to figure out it was not a matter of me looking at the natural world in the wrong time point. It was me looking at the world from at the wrong scale. And it was then that I realized I had to become a microbiologist. Because if you want some action, adventure, you should focus on the small things. Definitely. Because as you might expect, that immensely diverse world I started describing is, of course, the microbial planet we live in. Because, oh boy, we live in and on a microbial world. Here in my pocket, I hope, yeah, I do. Here in my pocket, I have a little tube that I filled with 1 gram of soil I took from the front lawn of this building this morning. And in that gram of soil, 1 billion microbial cells live. And if I would take all the microbial cells that are currently on this planet and round them all together, I would get a number of 5 million trillion. It's a ridiculous number, right? It's a 5 with 30 zeros after it. To just give you some kind of an idea, that's far more than there are stars in our universe. And there are not just many of them. These microbes play vital roles in almost every imaginable biochemical process that takes place in any ecosystem on Earth. Microbes play an important role in the global cycling of carbon, the cycling of nitrogen, an important fertilizer, the production of the oxygen you and I breathe. All these processes are for a large part driven by the activities of microorganisms. I sometimes refer to microorganisms as the heroes of biochemistry. You know why? Because microbes what they can do really good is turning or converting biochemical compounds into other compounds. And by doing that, get a little energy out of it and utilize that for their growth. This is also why microbes have been so successful, and you can basically find them everywhere. And you know what is also really cool? we can exploit that feature, because microbes can help us clean up waste, things we want to get rid of. They can help us clean up toxic waste, clean up oil spills from the ocean, and microbes can make things we desperately need. Microbes can make biopolymers for us, biofuels that at one point hopefully will replace fossil fuels. So to me, this still largely hidden microbial world represents an enormous potential for solving many of the big environmental, economical, and ecological questions we are currently faced with. So this is all, very big. I'm talking about saving the planet and all. But I would like to bring this a little bit closer, this story. In fact, quite close, because the way I'm standing here in front of you, I carry proudly in my guts 1.5 kilogram of bacteria. Again, it's an extremely diverse ecosystem. Up to 1,000 different microbes live in my gut. And scientists refer to this collection of microbes, they call it the microbiota, the gut microbiota. And where most people, when you think about microbes, think about the harmful ones that can spoil food or can kill you. The majority of all the microbes in my gut are harmless. Quite the opposite. They're beneficial to me. They help me to digest my food. They synthesize vitamins. They suppress the growth of harmful pathogens. And one of the most important things, it helps my immune system to function. Without my microbiota, my immune system wouldn't function. How do I know all this? I mean, they were very small, right? Microbes are very small. That's correct. We can use a microscope. Anthony van Leeuwenhoek invented the microscope 300 years ago here in Delft. And we do the same thing. We still use a microscope. It's a great tool. But it turns out that an even more efficient way to study microbes is by looking at their DNA. Especially if you want to study many microbes at the same time, like you need to do in your guts. Suppose I'm willing to prepare 1 gram of my feces. And so what I could do, I could bring that sample to the lab, and we could extract the DNA out of that sample. In fact, extract the DNA out of all the microbes that are present there. And then we could read out the genetic code, and we could really learn a lot from that. What kind of microbes are there, and what are their metabolic capabilities? What kind of functions can they carry out in this gut ecosystem? And I would discover that my gut microbiota is quite different from your microbiota, and your microbiota, and your microbiota. We all have one, and there are overlaps, but there are also differences. It turns out that if you look at closely related people, say identical twins, they have very similar gut microbiotas. But if you look at the microbiota of a random group of people, they might have similar lifestyles, similar diets, but their microbiotas are quite different. And this is not just fun for biologists like me. It's actually something that the medical community is becoming more and more aware of, because there are many links between diseases like Crohn's disease, colon cancer, diabetes, and even autism. All these diseases have been linked to alterations in your gut microbiota. Same is true for obesity. If I compare 100 lean people and 100 obese people, and if I would study their microbiota, I would find striking differences between the composition of their microbiota, between these two extremes in the spectrum. This is really, really, really awesome. A lot of scientists worldwide, biologists, medical scientists, are currently looking into this to see if we can use this information to develop new drugs and therapies and cure or prevent or diagnose these diseases in an early stage. How do we get our microbiota? Well, if a baby is born, immediately you're getting colonized. The thing is, so in this picture I can tell you that my intestines were being colonized, my skin was being colonized, microorganisms were multiplying in my mouth, they were settling there, and they were there to stay. In fact, most of them are still here. And what has been shown as well is that babies who are born by cesarean section start off with very different microbiotas than babies who are born naturally, who enter this world via their mother's birth canal. And what has also been shown that those babies who are born by C-section have less of a certain beneficial group of microbes in their guts, which makes them more susceptible to infections with pathogens which can cause chronic diarrhea. So you already see that in this very early stage of your life, your microbiota is formed, and the way that's formed can have large health consequences. Another one, antibiotics. Antibiotics are absolutely fantastic. They can help us treat horrible diseases like leprosy, tuberculosis. And so they're great, but the problem with antibiotics is that they kill microbes. And not just the bad guys, the ones that you want to get rid of, but also the nice ones that you want to keep. And what has been shown is that children who have been given large quantities of antibiotics for a prolonged time have pervasive, long-lasting changes in their microbiota. And again, this has health consequences, even at a later age. And what's interesting that globally, there is this trend, right? If I look at the Western world, we see that infectious diseases have been declining, thanks to good hygiene, the use of antibiotics, the way we process our foods. But at the same time, over the past 50 years, diseases like diabetes, multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, allergies, asthma, all these diseases have been rapidly increasing in the Western world. And a current hypothesis is that increase in immune diseases, because that's what they are, they're diseases linked to the functioning of your immune system, are somehow related to the fact that for several generations we have been altering the way our gut microbiota is formed. Currently there are a couple of large research projects going on worldwide where scientists, the industry, medical scientists are looking into this, trying to see if we can develop drug targets. At TNO, I'm closely collaborating with industry to see if we can define food ingredients that can modify our microbiota in such a way that our health improves. But beside all the technological and the medical implications of this, I would like to spend a few more words on a more of a philosophical aspect to all this. Because when I look into the mirror, it's quite reasonable to assume that what I see is me, and what you see is you. But I also learned that only 10% of the 10 trillion cells in and on my body are Homo sapiens cells, are human cells. The other 90% of those 10 trillion cells are, in fact, microbial cells. So it's also perfectly reasonable to assume that on a cellular level, I am much more microbe than man. In fact, I see myself as an individual, right? I'm speaking at TEDxDelft, great. But you know what? I am a walking, talking, fully functional, super complex ecosystem. That's what I am. I think personally it's a wonderful idea to realize that wherever you go, you're never alone. And, I personally believe by studying the microbial world around us and inside us, we can learn much about the way our biosphere works, about our own biology. We can, hopefully at one point, turn this world into a safer, healthier and happier place. So on behalf of my microbial self and I would like to thank you for your attention.